If you're a basketball junkie like me, then you've definitely been watching The Last Dance, a documentary detailing the 97-98 championship run of the Chicago Bulls. This documentary gave viewers a behind-the-scenes look of the Chicago Bulls as well as their star player Michael Jordan, who I didn't know was training in between takes during the filming of Space Jam. I mean, come on, that's crazy. Also, I like the fact that The Last Dance has made kids that weren't born during the 90s more aware of who Michael Jordan was, and this has sparked some debates like who was better, LeBron or Michael Jordan. Speaking of which, I encourage you all to check out Chemistry Productions' Aviat podcast, where we actually had this NBA GOAT debate.
You know, it's kind of funny, like, even the genesis of this whole conversation, right? Because all Michael did was release a whole documentary, and then all of a sudden we up here talking about who's greater, LeBron or Mike. So the argument's already over right there. The fact that we now like just talking about LeBron when a Mike documentary just came out.
Going back to the documentary, it touched on many aspects of the Chicago Bulls, such as Dennis Rodman's random trip to Las Vegas in the 97-98 season and Michael Jordan's love for gambling. But what caught many by surprise was Michael Jordan's thoughts on being an activist. During episode 5 of the documentary, it talks about the 1990 North Carolina Senate race between Harvey Gantt and Jesse Helms. Harvey Gantt is a black American, while Jesse Helms is depicted as being a hardcore white racist. Now, the reason why Michael Jordan is brought into this Senate race is because he was raised in North Carolina. So it was said in the documentary that during 1990, Michael Jordan did not want to publicly endorse Harvey Gantt, but instead gave a private donation. Michael Jordan just wanted to focus on basketball at the time, and he didn't consider himself an activist. This led to somewhat of a stain on Michael Jordan's legacy, and the black community at the time, and to this day, was not very happy about it. Adding to this, it was reported during the time that Michael Jordan said Republicans buy sneakers too, which has followed him throughout history, even though he says it was a joke. So all of this controversy and criticism surrounding Michael Jordan's decision making led me to ask this question: should we depend on celebrities to be activists, and should celebrities be involved in politics? But when we think of Gantt versus Helms, in which people's lives are at stake, it becomes more of a moral issue. Still, not everybody has the same morals, so we're back at square one. For some celebrities, being a vocal activist or being involved in politics could be damaging to their brand. I mean, politics, for example, is a very contentious area. We praise people like Muhammad Ali today, but in the past, when he was very vocal about the Vietnam War, he was hated by many. We also see today with some activists who are very vocal about their causes that they even deal with problems. For example, last year, LeBron James was heavily criticized for not being vocal about the Hong Kong protest happening in China, even though NBA players were playing basketball in China at the time. Many people thought he was being a hypocrite because he's very vocal about social issues that are happening today. And with that being said, let's take a moment of silence for Breonna Taylor and Ahmaud Arbery.
Do you think white people in this country, and I'm talking about non-segregationists, people devoid or thinking they're devoid of racism, do you have any idea of what they want the Negro to be in America?
Well, it depends on the level that we are talking here, because I think you have to make a distinction between the people who are genuinely and absolutely committed in the white community on the question of racial equality. And I must confess that I think they're in a very small minority. I think the vast majority of white Americans will go but so far. It's a kind of installment plan for equality, and they are always looking for an excuse to go but so far.
Now, going back to Michael Jordan's comments about only wanting to focus on basketball during the 1990 Senate race, it makes sense. Michael Jordan had yet to win an NBA championship or an MVP, even though he was a big cultural icon during the time, evidenced by the It's Gotta Be the Shoes commercial. However, it should be noted that Michael Jordan did give Harvey Gantt a donation, and in 1996 he held a more public fundraiser for Harvey Gantt when he again ran for the Senate. And even though Michael Jordan said he wasn't an activist during the time in the 1990s, he has shown more of a pattern of activism in recent years. For example, over the past 5 years, Jordan donated over $30 million to activist causes. Also, just last year, he helped open a health clinic in North Carolina for underprivileged groups. Michael Jordan is also the majority owner of the Charlotte Hornets, and that's said to have the most diversified staff in all of sports. Ultimately, celebrities are just people like you and me. They just happen to have perfected a skill. They shouldn't be worshipped, and we shouldn't depend on celebrities or those with a public platform to solve all of our problems. You have a voice too, and you should definitely use it. Anyways, that wraps it up for this video. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will see you next time.
Chemistry Productions.